Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Tripp. Welcome to our episode. Today on Let's Livestream, we're going to be asking, I think it's a very time relevant, a very now question of how can Livestream help? In light of the recent Hurricane Harvey disaster that has been hitting the Gulf Coast region in not just Texas, but in the surrounding areas, we really do want to ask this question as it relates and as it affects the live stream community, and maybe come up with some ideas or suggest some topics of things of how can we actually or tangibly help the community and the nation and those that are being affected. But in the meantime, I would kindly ask, would you guys do a couple of things? Would you? And we'll just kind of cut right to it and just ask, would you guys just kindly share this broadcast out right now, whether you're watching on Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook? Would you very kindly send this broadcast out? Just kindly share this really broadcast out right now, not to just add to the noise or not just another post about this, but to actually be able to round up or bring in some the options and the availability for people to be able to help in light of this huge natural disaster. But we do have some rules, and we do that because it makes it easier to be able to talk about this Twitter chat and be able to use it, because this is first and foremost, it is a Twitter chat. We do use this on Twitter, and we use the hashtag Let's Livestream, and that's the first rule that we have. So when in all the correspondence that you guys do, if you haven't already, you guys can just do a search for the hashtag Let's Livestream, and you'll be able to find all of the tweets that are going on about it. If you're watching us on live stream, you can also watch us on Periscope, on Facebook. You can go over to our community, Live Talk Nation, and watch it live in our Facebook group, as well as from the VitMug page, the fan page. And that is the production company that produces this show. I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit on the rules, but question number 2, since this is a Twitter chat, guys, use the, for every question, we have a Q1, Q2, Q3. Respond in kind with an A for an answer, and A1, A2, A3, etc. This way we know which question that you're answering. And like we had talked about earlier, I know today's topic is not necessarily a fun topic, but I hope that you are able to enjoy the connections that you make in the community that you are building around Let's Livestream. And so without too much further delay, I want, if you guys haven't already in the Twitter chat, please do me a favor and introduce yourself. I'm going to be checking over here on Twitter, and let me bring this up. Let's see here. It's good to see. I see Chevelle John. I see him. He's already tweeting. Thank you very much, guys, for doing that. And let me get over to our Facebook page on VitMug as I try to get this back and forth. And without one very important thing, and if you haven't already watched on Twitter, today is actually a very special day for our producer. She doesn't know I did this, but I put it out there because I'm in charge of the Twitter account during these. And I want to say happy birthday to Jen Nelson. It is her 29th birthday, and we are absolutely ecstatic that that she chose to join us today live on the show. And she is going to be joining me today for this topic, because there's a lot to be said in what's going on. Okay, there's the feed. So happy birthday, Jen. Thank you for being in our lives, and thank you very much, honestly, for producing Let's Livestream. I appreciate it. So the first question, if it hasn't already, it should be posting very shortly. The first question, and this is really a very broad question that I want to ask. In the question that's getting tweeted out is, where do you go for news and updates on these kind of major events? And of course, the major event that we're talking about right now is Hurricane Harvey. It's hit the Gulf Coast here in the U.S. And it's hit a number of states, although the one that's really been very directly affected has been Texas, and more specifically Houston and the surrounding areas. And we'll kind of get into that as we talk about it. But where do you go for your local news? I mean, for your news on these kinds of events, do you go to local news outlets? Do you go to Periscope? Do you follow Twitter? Do you follow maybe you only talk to people that you know in a particular area or on a topic? I would really love to hear your perspective in what you guys are seeing happen with that. I know for me, I like to actually go to two sources, and it's not a news organization. I like to get a variety of people and a variety of sources. But I like when something's happening, I want to know how it's affecting real people. So in this case, I'm looking to my Facebook friends that I know and family that are in that Texas area, and it is hard sometimes to find them because in a crisis, sometimes people are really not. They are not in a place where they want post on social. They're not. They've got anything else is more important than doing that. So that's usually when if I don't see how my friends are doing, I might post and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" I know Facebook has the safety and crisis posts so that they can people can mark themselves safe, and it doesn't. It just kind of answers the question without having to respond to a lot of different tweets and comments and things like that. I'm looking over here. I see Gail Brown on the Monetize You show on Twitter. She's saying she goes to Twitter, and that's somewhere that I also go to. I will try to find like a trending hashtag or a topic. If it's a particular local news, I will find the local news station or somebody like that where they are boots on the ground that really help us be able to figure out like what is actually happening and not just from a national perspective, which tends to be a little bit more vanilla at times. um, I also see Alfredo Tigolo says that for live streaming it goes to Google News and Yahoo News for those kind of major updates, and I think that there's a good balance between trying to understand and see how something of this magnitude is affecting now hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in a very direct sense, if not then millions of people, maybe to a lesser extent. And I say that because this affects everybody in very both real terms and very extreme forms of people losing homes and loved ones and property and I mean it is just it is devastating, but it also impacts everybody to a lesser extent of say if you were planning to go to have a connecting flight and Houston was that airport, you're not going to go, and that flight has either been canceled or rerouted. And yes, I know very much so that it affects us that those types of people in a much into a much less degree, but we all then do know and need to recognize that it's not just over there and that we just need to just worry about them, it's their problem. It doesn't work like that. It really affects everybody. So having said that, I also want to make sure that you guys also just have a quick reminder, please do share this out. This is going to be one of those broadcasts, and as we are trying to bring in our community and get today's show going on, and for some reason, like I'm having a really hard time seeing it on Facebook, but that's just probably me and my computer. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do I'm going to do one of those like where you shut it down and then you bring it right back up. But anyway, so for you guys, what that if you're watching on Periscope, and that really is for, I want to hear what you guys think. Where do you guys go for news in updates on major events, things like Hurricane Harvey? I'd love to see what you guys see there. I see Gail's on Periscope. I see Terry. I see you're there. Chris Strub, welcome to the broadcast. I love seeing it. People are saying, yep, Twitter for sure. And it's not a surprise that those that are on Twitter go to Twitter for an update. Those, if you're on Facebook, that you're going to go to Facebook to see how your friends are, and that's perfectly okay. It's giving sometimes a little bit of that different perspective on where where do you value getting your news sources from. I might even put it out there that depending on what platform or what source you get your news from will also determine what news you get. Typically like local radio, and we have a friend, Zach Hoffman. He's a radio personality, and so he's going to be talking about things on radio from his perspective about things that are happening locally. As opposed to say if listening to like a national news syndicated program or the nightly news or something like that. Do you wait for the end of the day, or where do you catch? I'm going to suggest that you're going to get different perspectives and from different sources. And so I would say there's a lot of value in that, and to go there and ask that. So I do see a number of people that you guys are watching us on Facebook. Thank you guys. If you haven't already, please do share it out. I'm going to actually do that right now.
Well, while you do that, it sounds like you can.
There you go,
I
Jenny.
can get a thumbs
Like
up
that,
from
Jenny.
you, and that means that everything is good. I want to say thank you to Renelle and to Terry Johnson, who have all said thank you. And thank you, Jonathan, for recognizing my 29th birthday, the couple year anniversary of my 29th birthday.
No, get
It's
out.
it's been a good day. It's been a relaxing day, and those are the kind of days that I like to have. And I plan to go out after Let's live stream and enjoy my evening, probably with a glass of wine. Probably. I see William Solis is over on Facebook, and it's really great to see you. I put a post out and yesterday talking about this very topic, and I'm glad it's transitioned over to Let's live stream because I think that we don't want to be the news as live stream broadcasters. We don't want to create more confusion and more noise in the sphere of real reporters that are out there risking their lives and sharing the news. But I do think that we have the ability of amplification, of communication, and of compassion. That this question is a very fair one to start a dialogue. And it does start with what we put out for Let's live stream. Question number one: where do you get your news from? Personally, I don't go to the news anymore. I don't go to broadcast news anymore. I don't go to CNN. I don't go to Fox to get real time news. I go to Twitter. I go to Facebook. I go to Periscope now, right? How many people are live streaming about real world incidents on Periscope? And they're giving me that ground truth, not what the news wants to put out, and pardon me if I sound jaded, but not by the story that they're trying to sell, right? Because they are businesses, and while they have an ethical broadcast motto or creed behind them that they will share fair and balanced news, they are a business and they have certain stories that they tell. I like personally to be able to see lots of information and decide for myself, make an assessment, analyze what's going on, make an assessment, and go from there. So one of the people that I have been watching, and I know you're watching different people on Periscope and on Facebook, is Adam Brown. He has kind of showed me the ground truth of his very personal journey in with Hurricane Harvey, and it's kept it grounded and kept it real. And I really did put it out there yesterday. Thank you so much for sharing that because it's hard. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to open up your thoughts in your house, especially during a very devastating time. So I do appreciate those people that have been providing that ground truth because it's really making an impact on how people view
Mhm.
what's happening.
Yeah. No, and I think one of the things that makes this particularly hard hitting is not just how broadly devastating it is, and because I don't think what we're trying to do in any way, shape, or form is compare this devastation to another devastation. I think one of the things that particularly makes live streaming in even before live streaming became so mainstay is just the connection that social media allows us. Before, we would have to wait for the phone call to know how our friends and relatives were. But now we're able to see it very firsthand with with how easy it is to post things on mobile and things like this. And I know that kind of gets us is starting to get into that question number two, and I can read that real quick. Have you or do you know someone that's been affected by Hurricane Harvey? And I think the answer is yes. It's a resounding yes. There's not a question. That, I mean, for me, it's both friends and family that have been affected, and it's good to see some family members that actually mark themselves safe on Facebook, where maybe they just don't have enough bandwidth literally to be able to post and do lots of interaction. Sometimes it's not just that, it's also, well, they only have a little bit of power. They're having power problems, so they can't really charge their phone, or they, let alone just have an internet coverage. So if you guys do, I mean, how many do you guys all have, or have you been directly, or do you know somebody, whether it's a friend or family, that's been affected by this? I'd love to hear. And I know, Jen, I'd love you to come back on and share some of the what you've been seeing, and some of the people that you've been seeing on social and how they've been affected by this. Because in general, we were talking about this before, where some people show up in your Facebook news feed that don't show up in mine in there, and we're both mutual friends. It's just the way that, of course, it's just the way that the algorithm works out, that I'm seeing them, 3, 4, 5 videos, but you're not. And it doesn't mean that people aren't posting. It means that we're just not able to see it easily. We have to know and search. So I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, so I briefly mentioned it in yesterday, probably mid-afternoon. I started feeling very overwhelmed by what was going on in the ground truth and the stories that were occurring. And being overwhelmed comes from a place of feeling helpless, right? So this is where a lot of this comes from. It's like, how can we help? How can we actually do something? How can we uh, create, amplify what we see and where we are using our skills of communication and compassion. And I put a simple post out on my Facebook page and just said, how should we help? How can we help?
Hmm.
And there were so many great comments, and I tried to intentionally tag people like Christy Gillentine and Adam Brown and Ann Nugent, and people that I had been seeing in Houston and were worried about. So I think it's been really important to not only bring awareness to our community that there are other people in the community that are experiencing this firsthand, because you've seen Madeline Sklar and I have not seen her post at all. And that's what Facebook is working behind the scenes. I have to say, I'm so floored by the comments that people put out
Hmm.
and the brainstorming that happened, and the authenticity that we both love about the live streaming community really came across in that one genuine post of like, what should we be doing?
Yeah, because again, we're really hitting back and not just trying to like talk about the same thing everybody talks about. One of the real purposes of doing this broadcast is to bring together in very tangible terms who is being affected, and then what does that mean to us, and then being able to ask that last question: what can I do, and how can I make a difference? How can I participate in a solution and not just passively just let things kind of go by and say, oh, somebody else will take care of it. I think too often we get that we feel that it's like, oh, you know what, Jen, I'm here in Virginia, they're in Houston, and they're in the Gulf region. Somebody else will take care of it. It's okay. I don't have to do anything. And obviously, that's not how we feel.
No, that's absolutely not. And there are some great people in high positions like Mark Zuckerberg, and there are NFL stars out there. And Michael, I'm sorry, his last name escapes my mind, but he put out some amazing stats in that post that I put out, that there are great people in the right position donating tons of money. But it isn't just about money. It's about, what can you do to get the communication open in a positive way that isn't conflicting with what is being told. I'm not saying that I want to tell everybody's story via live stream, but sharing ground truth as that comparison to what the news is putting out, and really being able to use live streaming and social media to share what's going on. Their perspectives are important.
Mm-hmm.
Different perspectives give us the total story.
Yes, and that's this is the boots on the ground. This is that I call them like the on the spot journalism. That this is where I appreciate it more than most. And I know that in some particular cases, with Christy Gillentine, and I've already tweeted it out. If you guys haven't already, you guys can follow it over there. But Christy Gillentine, who is the host and founder of another very popular Twitter chat. Chat Snap. I always get it backwards, but Chat Snap, and it usually happens about the hour, but prior to when we broadcast weekly. But this particular disaster and hurricane has affected her just very directly, and in the case of her and her family and things like this, it's been an almost complete total loss. And there was a GoFundMe set up, and I had tweeted that out, and I'm actually trying to bring up that link right now. But there is a GoFundMe out there for her, just to help with a very basic, trying to provide a dry place for them to be. And sometimes I think we do take those kind of things for granted. And I did tweet that out because I wanted to make sure that we had that option. If you want, this is just one example of a very tangible way to help somebody directly. And this is one way to help. And I know we're going to talk here in just a little bit about some of the other ways that you can help provide on different levels, whether it's national, local, or in this case, a very specific person for someone that, at least in my community, and I think I can speak for you too, Jen, this is somebody that we're directly tied with and that we directly know, and that we know that she is affected by this.
Absolutely. And David Gonzalez, another person in our community, I think was the one who has been really championing that. I also saw Babylon Brook really talking about Christine Gillentine. I mean, the fact that you can have the news and telling what's going on from a national perspective, and then you could see people going through it and experiencing, makes it real, and for me provides that I'm not supporting a nebulous concept. It's not going up into the nether. There is somebody that I can connect with that is experiencing this, and I feel like I'm more directly able to support them, especially with efforts like GoFundMe's. I know my good friend Tina Cavallant with Ladies Go Live is working with a animal organization, and that's what she's passionate about. And she did a GoFundMe as well, and is going out on Monday to go out and help. She's down in Florida, so she's going over to Texas to help and really support what she believes in, because there are a lot of secondary vulnerable sectors, such as animals and livestock, and then people that you may not think about, that you may not see on the news, are also secondary, vulnerable victims.
Right. Yeah, and I do want to talk about that, and I've kind of put together some links or some link resources, because I there's just like what Carlos Phoenix was saying on the Facebook feed. He says, I still think that victims need information, and if it's centralized, then they can find it. And instead of trying to point them in like 1,000 different directions, sometimes just that's what I think the role of a larger or more national organization is able to do, is to be able to group large amounts of data or contact points to be able to help. But then and it really depends on where people feel led very specifically. They may feel that, they need to go over to and help to the GoFundMe page for Christy. Or it may be that, I want to be able to help Houston or Corpus Christi very specifically with a food bank. Or in Donna's case, she wants to be able to help, care for pets because they're real needs. Other people may say, I feel so bad, and I feel very led to help with newborn children and those moms that literally just had babies, and they need all the extra help that they can get.
Yeah, what was that staggering fact that in Houston a baby is born every 3 days or something like that? Probably even more than that.
Yeah.
Just think about somebody being born into the situation and the medical treatment that's needed. So there definitely is a resource for everybody, and I think the organization is going to come with time and awareness, and echoing back onto what Carlos says, is that centralization and realizing that social media is media, right? It does have a power to focus and be if it's coordinated and focused, it can be as powerful as that NFL star that's matching dollar for dollar for anybody that's willing to support him and what he believes in. Well, it's true for the social media component as well.
Yeah, it keeps going, and it needs to be personal. And I think that's that is one of the big turning points for a lot of people, that if they just feel that it's someone else, you are a lot less likely to take action. But if you can actually put a face in a name, in very, very literal sense, that, look, I know this person needs this kind of help, you are more likely, because for the most people are they feel compassionate. They when they see a need, most people will say, how can I help? Even if it might be donating money. And I wanted to talk about that as one of the some of the next coming up questions. But our question that I got posted, which is question number 3, it's what agencies and corporations are organizing relief efforts, and I do have a link, and I'm just going to grab it right here, and I'm going to put it out there. And this I believe this was actually compiled um, by NPR, and as one of the sources, and I had wanted to put it out there as just one of those, as just one of the sources to be able to say, oh, what how are things, how are we connecting with the world here? And so let me put that out. I believe I put that out. Yep, that goes in the Facebook, and I'm actually going to try to put this right into the Periscope as well. But you're able to go over to NPR, and I did drop it in the Facebook things, but it's talking about corporations and how they are pledging. In fact, they're actually pledging millions of dollars towards the relief effort. And sometimes, yes, I do understand that we're not. This isn't, to be very clear, we're not endorsing any one of these organizations or any one of these specific efforts, and we're saying you need to donate here or any of that. But what we are showing you is that there's a lot of different people helping, and that you can also be a part of that. And so when I scroll down through this, I see names of like Apple and Amazon. We have Home Depot and Lowe's. We're all very familiar with those as brand names, and Pepsi, and United Airlines and Walmart. We're just seeing those things. And I'm encouraged to see that big companies are actually making the effort, and they are going out. So in addition to that, what was some of the other ones? I see Verizon and Kroger. I know that's a local brand here, at least for us, and we see these big names, and they're not just putting $5,000 in or 1,000. I mean, Facebook will match up to $1 million, I read. The Dow Chemical Company, they will donate 100,000 to the Red Cross. And I think this is a good example of where companies, for profit companies, are taking action and helping those companies that are very specifically out to help places like the Red Cross Disaster Relief Fund. They're putting their money in, and I personally, I mean, I don't have an extra $100,000 to be able to give, but I do know that there are lots of other ways that you can help. And I know we're going to be talking about that coming up here in just a short bit. But one of the things that we had that uh, Jen and I have really talked about in putting this show together, just having meetings, and we wanted to be able to put together what is a way that we can help. And one of those ways is how can you actually help. And we wanted to say, one of the ways that you can help out, we wanted to say visit here, and I'm going to drop this link right now. And for those of you guys that can't click on the link, it is letslivestream.com/helping with Harvey. Okay, now this is not, we're not asking for money. We're not asking you to spend time and sign up or do this. This is really what this is here. Let me just drop this in the Facebook group, be able to put that out. Helping with Harvey. That will populate in just a minute. What this will do, this takes us over to a just a form, and we're asking because a lot of the people that's in our community are social media savvy. They know, and they have a reach. They have an audience, and they talk about these important issues. But we're asking people that if they would, in conjunction with, and I'll let Jen kind of take over, but are you willing to help post on social? Would you be willing to email some of your contacts, whether it's personal or, if it's appropriate, if you're in that position, maybe asking a business to do that. Would you be willing to create content and those kinds of things? And we're just we're trying to do our part in helping you be able to reach and bring awareness to actually what really matters, and that's people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And this all came because I reached out to Chris Strub, who we know as our nonprofit connection within the live streaming community. When I think of nonprofits, and those are the people that are on the front lines right now, besides the citizens who have gone on and shown their support, but nonprofits are taking the brunt of this until the government catches up. It's just a reality of how response works. And so I was like, who can I reach out to find out how I can help? Because Chris doesn't have all the answers to how I can help, but he does know people that do. And he connected me with Elizabeth Ann Hamilton, and this is her her effort, because she's local, she's a businesswoman, a social media person in Houston, trying to put together digital support, virtual support. And as Jonathan and I are VitMug behind the scenes, we know our most immediate way to help is we can do live stream production. We can get a message out, we can amplify it, we can help to try to raise money. And we've been talking with her in how we can make that happen. It's going to take a little bit of time, as digital efforts do, but we really encourage you. The link is actually on the lower third here, www.letslivestream.com/helping with Harvey. If you go check that out, fill out the form. That's going to connect you with Elizabeth Ann Hamilton, who is become a direct and trusted resource in trying to coordinate. And that's what we need right now, is we need the ability to coordinate and provide that CTA. Like, where should we be asking our community to support victims of Harvey right now? And it's only through that collaboration and amplification and compassion that things are going to happen. And that's where I think the live streaming community can help. And it's what I feel passionate about doing myself.
And Jen, I know that the next questions come up, and I want to give you a chance, because I want your perspective on this question, how to ask it or answer it. I know how to ask it. But question number 4, it is, what do relief agencies need most right now and in the immediate future? And immediate future to me, we know, and you and I have discussed this, that like, this is not a disaster that lasts a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're talking the effects of this are going to be lasting into the years mark. And so we understand that, but sometimes there's the immediate rush of just trying to preserve life, rescue people in some very tangible terms. But if you could give your perspective on that and just give me an answer, like, what do you think? What do relief agencies need right now?
Well, I'm in no position to pontificate on what they actually need, but I go through the basic elements of what people need in situations like this. I do have very limited military background experience in disaster relief and being in tragic situations, and knowing how there is a natural order of things, right? It's that you get out of your immediate threat and your basic needs are met, right? Everybody's getting out, being evacuated, being brought to higher ground. I think that shelters have been generally open and receiving people very well. There's been different echelons of receiving evacuees, like churches and schools at the very basic front lines, and then even bigger convention centers and shelters that are well equipped for massive numbers. There's even a gentleman that opened his furniture store up to house people, which was an amazing story. But I think we're still at this point where we have to worry about those most vulnerable as humans, those that need medical aid, and maybe we even talk behind the scenes blood, maybe something that's needed right now. And with the Red Cross's help, I think that that's possible. And basic is water, and making sure that there's fresh, clean drinking water. Just because there's water everywhere doesn't mean that there's a drop to drink, and doesn't mean it's safe to even be in. And then taking care of the first responders is something that I heard from Adam Brown talk about, and it makes a lot of sense, because while you may be prepared as a city, as a state, for what you predict will be a hurricane coming into your path, you are not able to predict and prepare for any changes, and then any influx of volunteers, people that come in with their boats. I've seen it in long lines, people coming in and just wanting to be there as a volunteer and sharing what's going on. Well, how do you manage that? How are they being taken care of? Are they in the best, are they hurting themselves in order to save others? So responding and taking care of those first responders was actually something that Adam mentioned. So I think that there is a very interesting and unique perspective that Ground Truth can give to telling the real story of what's going on.
Yeah, that was some of the things that I know that we had talked about in, it's helping people, and we think of the victims in the situation, those that, they're trying to get out, or, just in the process are losing whatever, whatever it is that they have or had. We talked about Donna and helping find help for pets. I mean, we kind of think about it. I mean, talk about, sometimes just the innocence, right? And
Yeah.
we we don't, we oftentimes we just don't think about it until it's kind of too late. Well, what am I going to do? And then really bring up that really good point about about helping and making sure that the responders are also cared for, because they are literally putting themselves in harm's way, trying to do the best that they can to save lives. And we really need to appreciate that and understand the significance of that. um, and you talked about not just providing money, but water, and sometimes being able to give blood. I know locally here we just did a blood drive, I want to say about a week ago, and just ended that up. And that was a really great a really great way to provide something that can literally save lives. Um, so one of the things that, so I know we've got some other questions coming up, and as we kind of move along in this, because I do want to be able to talk about some of the more local ways. We've talked about a very specific people and persons that we know that are affected and what they need. We've talked about maybe in some very much larger senses, but what are some of the local organizations that need help? And Jen, you brought up the fact that right now it seems like a lot of the news coverage is exclusively focused on Houston. But there are a lot of other communities, not just Houston, but I think Houston's a good showcase of the type of help that we need to provide and the type of people. But what are some of the other communities that you know of that need our care and attention?
um, from the news I've heard is that Lake Charles area, right? And that is moving along the border,
Mm.
along the coast between Texas and Louisiana. We cannot forget. Um, it was like to the couple of days of Katrina, 12 years later, that Harvey hit that Gulf Coast area between Texas and Louisiana, and now it's continuing to rain down. There are levees that are, and I hate to speak because I'm only picking up information from what I've heard from the news, but the system isn't able to support four 4 feet of rain coming down
Mhm.
anywhere along that area. So it's not just Houston, it's Galveston, it's Corpus Christi, it's Lake Charles, it's moving into Louisiana. Don't forget about those people. Just and I don't know what it is about Houston. I don't know if the people have been very amazing in sharing in what's going on, that they've been awesome in mobilizing, that they were the best prepared for this situation. But we constantly hear about Houston, and it's no way to take away from them. Just realize that it's a hurricane, and a hurricane's wrath reaches for miles and miles.
Mm.
By Friday or Saturday, we here in Virginia, hundreds of miles away, are going to feel Harvey. So
Mhm.
you have to put that into perspective, and how landfall will be miles long, and there are tons of people out there, and we just need to focus on where we can do the best good that we can, whether that's money or time. I don't personally
Mhm.
have a ton of money to support, but I do have time, and I believe that within the live streaming community, we have skills. And Carlos Phoenix put this out in our post, and he said that there are lawyers, there are administrative support, there are people with skills that if they were put to a single call to action, just like what Elizabeth Ann is doing and putting it out for her social media and digital community, like to raise awareness
Mhm.
in a collective voice.
Right. You bringing up that awareness, and I think, and to be really clear that, while we here both on the show, both individually and however, we're not saying that there's only one way to support, or that we specifically are going to support this this corporation, or this specific effort. That's not the purpose here. Our purpose is to be able to point you in directions where you can donate, where you can support. And again, when we talk about being able to help and support, one of those ways is be able to go over and with the letslivestream.com/helping with Harvey. That is a great way for you to be able to help get the message out for what we're talking about. In addition, I wanted to bring up just the idea of being able to um, reach it in a very local way, not necessarily on the national level. Places like the Red Cross or the United Way, but they have local chapters, and then there are local chapters, and in this case, talking about Houston, the Greater Houston Community Foundation. It is a foundation that connects donors with nonprofits, and in trying to find in trying to provide solutions for what's going on, and because it may be that people just need water, or it may be that they need clothes because all their clothes are gone. Look, this is the way that we're able to do that. We've already talked about like GoFundMe with Christy Gillentine. We've posted that together, but the Salvation Army is one. Samaritan's Purse. I know locally there's a group called Gleaning for the World, and they're sending both supplies and people in very tangible ways to help. And I think these are all very important to understand, that it's not just big corporations and all you have to do is just provide money. Sometimes they need the um, support. And I think, Jen, I think you brought it to my attention in your post, or somebody had posted, shared that the government is actually hiring short-term positions for admin support, because they need help trying to keep things organized, because this is a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people affected. It's not just, well, if I just write a check, everything's going to be okay, because not everybody can. And that's not always what's needed. So
and that's that is. I belong to a women's veterans organization, and they're always putting up job postings, and because I'm local to DC, the admin support, like, people don't think about distribution and logistics when it comes to things, major events, and that's from concerts. Like, that's the last thing to be thought about for distribution and logistics, and events, and then major catastrophes are some of the hardest things and the first things neglected. Like, oh, we want to get all this stuff there, but if you can't get it out to the right people, right, that's great. It just sits in a warehouse. But I love the fact that the government knows that after Katrina, right, that they're going to be in this for the long haul. So they need to create some temporary positions for admin, people to fill out logistic claims and travel vouchers, and just think about all the things that FEMA had to do for Katrina. And that was probably one of the first tests for FEMA, because that organization hasn't been around that long. And they really needed to figure out how to respond quickly and massively. So they've learned. Sorry, Louisiana. I'm sorry you had to be the guinea pig. Right. But I think it's going to help you and Texas in the long run. So yeah. I'm glad people are thinking about the long-term effects in that. I wanted to say, I put it up in the Facebook page. Ann Nugent put some recommendations, and she's a local Houstonian. I'm just making that up. I don't know if that's actually true, but if that word actually works. Red Cross links, Houston Food Banks, Texas Diaper Bank, San Antonio Food Bank, all these places. I mean, cities in Texas and cities in Louisiana are going to be affected widely, right? It's not just Houston, it's not just Galveston, it's not just Corpus Christi, it's not just Lake Charles, but like, as people look to evacuate and move out, that's going to put strain on other infrastructures and other economies, and demands for local food banks and shelters. So you're looking to help the fallback areas like San Antonio and Austin, to provide some help for people trying to create some normalcy in their life going forward.
As we do move forward in the coming weeks and months, I know it's sometimes we feel caught up in the emotion of the moment, seeing the flood waters coming in, and seeing the rescue boats go out, and one of the things that I'm going to be looking at that's just it's not just simply just interesting, but it's one of the interesting that caught my eye is the way that we're using new technologies now. And I've seen a couple of posts talking about drones as being the new way to help, instead of being stuck on a boat and in very inaccessible places. They're using drones that are much faster, much more efficient, being able to scan and see where the damage is, people that need help in right then, and then being able to actually take action and save. And I think that this technology, and we didn't have this technology 10, 15 years ago to the extent and the way that we do now. And so I am excited to see that look, these kinds of things are going to are going to change people's lives and literally save them. But it's also going to help with the rebuilding effort to know where do we need to be able to, be able to put the resources and our time and energy. What's going to make the biggest impact? And it's just literally as simple as using a drone, and it's become
Yeah.
something that's now. And so as you guys, as you guys are kind of going out, and that's why. Um, if you're not able to make a monetary donation, sometimes it is just being able to share out what supplies are needed, what efforts are needed. And that was the purpose, one of the purposes of that helping with Harvey. And again, that link, it is letslivestream.com/helping with Harvey, as you can see in the lower third now. And again, that's not it's not a donation link. That's a how can you help link. And these are maybe some ways to help bring awareness or to show others that may have missed it how they can help. And so we would ask if you would be a part of that. I know that I already have and will be making sure that I send out posts and things like this myself. So this is a chance for you to participate in that.
Yeah, I didn't. So when I put out this post, and as we were thinking of how this would develop, I don't like to just ask the question of how should we be helping, how can we help. I like to actually have somebody behind the scenes and know of a way where I want to help. And it doesn't mean that you have to follow my chosen path. You don't have to go to helping with Harvey. This is just somebody that I've found through a direct connection, and somebody that I trust in the nonprofit space that believes that what she is doing, Elizabeth Ann Hamilton is doing to rally a digital presence. And I think there's been a ton of other great ideas. Carlos Phoenix and Ryan Perez said live-a-thon, right? Which makes me laugh because it makes me think about like all of the musicians that would do like a sing-a-thon and or a big compilation CD and sell that. And that's a reflection of my childhood, not to degrade what that potential is. It's a great idea. I've also seen Chris Gage and Ebony Combs said they'd be willing to put t-shirts together to raise profits and put it towards the right cause. This all takes coordination, this all takes time, and I think while we're all surging right now, we don't want to be part of the noise, right? There's a lot of people trying to figure things out. And I kind of, as I'm talking through this and talking through this with you and talking through this with the community, maybe these collection efforts or these coordination efforts are going to be better served as we go forward. And people have a more honed need when desperation comes out, and when people know exactly what they need, or what organizations really need the money, and we can be a united front. Because right now it's just a lot of little bit here, a little bit here, what speaks to you. But I hope that in chatting today that we're asking the right questions and trying to figure it out.
And that is the exact question we are asking, trying to bring some information along the way here, trying to, bring some awareness and a lot of the times what we find is that the people that are out there now doing the work, boots on the ground, their attention is not into how to tell other people how to help. And in our case, because I'm not local, I can't go out and actually tangibly help, but in this case, what I do know is that I can try to bring as much awareness to the needs and the real needs that are out there, not feeding a big corporation, or not just trying to make another post and take advantage of the social media clamor about it, but actually trying to say, look, here are some real needs, and this is how you can directly help however you feel led. And that's our last question today, is how can you help with the relief effort? And there's lots of different ways, and we've tried to outline them, and we're going to be retweeting them ourselves to make sure that the message gets clearly communicated to those people that are out there that want to participate, that want to be able to help. And I saw somebody's comments like, oh, I would love to help, but I can't. I'm in the UK. There are lots of different ways. Maybe the best way is to be able to go over to letslivestream.com and helping with Harvey. Being able to help share the message, because somebody out there is helping. Somebody out there is doing something, but they don't have the resources or the time right now to be able to share the message. Well, maybe that could be your part. if you are not able to be there in person. And so I would want to ask, and if you're out there and you're watching, maybe there is a way. And if you think of a way that you can help, and not just help people, maybe it's help infants, maybe it's help new mothers, maybe it's to help give blood, maybe it's to donate some time to to a local center because now their resources are going to start to be strained in other areas. Maybe it's sharing a post. And when we start becoming aware and taking action and not just passively allowing things to go by, it really shows that one, that we are unified and that those people that are going through such a hard time are not in fact alone, even though they absolutely feel alone. And even though in fact, some of them have literally lost everything. And so I want to challenge you who are watching this, whether you're watching this live or on the replay, I want to challenge you to reach out and do something that's a bit outside of your comfort zone, something that's a little bit harder, something that's just a little bit more than what you might feel you could do, beyond a like, beyond just a share. Find something, reach out, go back through this. We will post more of these links and more of the resources for that you be able to find what works for you right then and right now. So with that, unless some of you, and I'm going to try to go back through some of the comments here and be able to reply, and but I would love to hear from you guys. And this is kind of our last minute call. Do you guys have any questions? Do you have any suggestions on ways that we could be sharing the message? And going forth, we're very much open to hearing how can we help in some tangible ways and some very helpful ways. So, Jen, great. I'm glad you're here. What are some? I never know when you're going to show up. I
I
never get
know that's
no little warning.
it keeps the mystery in this
Right.
show, you know.
But no, let me know. What are your thoughts? How can people help? With this relief effort.
I mean, so I appreciate the connections that I have personally made. I feel like there's a direct way to tangibly help, and again, I go back to amplifying communications and compassion and being able to get those stories out and really trying to be there to support. Now, we don't have the answers to everything, right? We're like honestly looking for ways to help and trying to figure this out. That's what the whole conversation I had with Chris Strub and how I met Elizabeth Ann, right? It's the whole reason why I put that post out on my personal Facebook page is because Jonathan and I don't have the answers, but we care enough to have this conversation and feel, personally for me, feel responsible that I have the power to be able to do a production like this, right? So how can I use it for good? And that's like a social responsibility. It's something that, if I was in the army right now, I'd be on the ground. And to be in a position where I am now not able to do that, it's like, okay, well, these are the things that I can do. How can I help? So again, I'm going to echo what Jonathan said. If you have ideas or have ways that you're going about it, please share them with us and put your thoughts out there. And I like that we're now on a public page instead of just my personal page.
Mhm.
So while I applaud everybody for the comments on my personal page, let's start a good thread going here, especially now since I know Elizabeth Ann Hamilton is in VitMug on Facebook in this discussion, and she will be on Twitter, I'm sure, to see the comment that we can really start to build this out. And mostly, I thank everybody for being open and receptive and be willing to throw in constructive ways to help.
Right. And with that, I just want to give a quick recap on some of the things that we've talked about. We have talked about it just is as we're closing out the show today. And this is a different Twitter chat. This is a very different Let's Live Stream. Normally we're kind of a little crazy, a little off the wall sometimes, a little irreverent maybe, but obviously where our hearts are, while we can't physically be there, that we're doing our part and doing a little bit to try to help support those that need it and those that are helping. But today I want to challenge you, if you haven't already, go find someone that you can maybe help out with, someone that is going through the loss, that is going through a very hard time with this, and maybe you can help them directly. Whether it's supplying with water if you're local, maybe it's providing some money or being able to reserve a hotel room for them. Whatever the case is, maybe they need some gas money to be able to get to a loved one. Whatever the case is, and everybody's needs are going to be slightly different because this is a very different situation. This is not normal, typical life. So in our case, one of the things that we know is with Christy Gillentine with a GoFundMe, and we've already posted that. That's helping a very specific person. There are lots of other people that are in a very similar situation. Maybe the answer is to help a local agency, whether it's a local food bank or the SPCA or maybe a mother shelter or something like that. Those are the Red Cross to do a blood drive. There's lots of different local things that are very grassroots that are helping a very specific area of people that are in need. And if maybe that doesn't, maybe you're not quite sure if that's a right fit, maybe helping and donating maybe some money or some time would be the best option for you. And maybe going to a national agency, something like United Way or the Red Cross, maybe helping with a faith-based organization, maybe a local church or some kind of a religious organization where they're helping. You need to find out what is actually going to make the biggest difference, that you're able to participate and help. Because you know what we do know is that if you were in that area, and your life was dramatically affected this way, you would also want to be helped and be assisted and to be shown compassion. And that is really simply what we're asking, is what can you do? And so that is pretty much to sum it all up. That is our show. And guys, I do want to say thank you for everybody that has watched, everybody that has shared. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do my very best to catch everybody's comments. Guys, you are absolutely fantastic, and we value you both as a regular audience, but also for what it is that you do on a weekly basis, and coming back and you participate and help grow this community. And so I really do want to say thank you, guys. And last but not least, please make sure that you do come back next week. We are going to have a different show. We're going to be talking about another topic, but it is going to be next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, tweet us, go to our Facebook pages. Some of you guys are actually messaging us on our personal accounts, and that's just fine too. We love to be able to connect with you guys and be able to help and share your message too. So with that, I'm going to say, guys, thank you so much for being here with this very special episode of Let's Livestream. We hope to see you again.